Megan Sumrell, welcome to Woman Owned.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. I am obsessed with this podcast. And so being on it is like the coolest thing ever.
Well, we are mutual fans of each other's work. I
Yeah.
think I have mentioned before on this show, I've talked about your time management and productivity system, which I use. I think it's excellent.
Thank you.
So it's really fun to be able to actually have a conversation with you live. I'd love to get into your woman owned story. Like, tell us about how you first became an entrepreneur.
Yeah, it wasn't, when I was asked age 8 in third grade, what do you want to do when you grow up? It was not, I'm going to teach women how to, do time management and planning. So I actually spent over 20 years in the corporate world, in the software and IT space, where I started out as a software test engineer. Bottom line is huge nerd, just a big fat nerd, and I own that with a ton of pride. Over the course of my career, got really interested into how to do things more efficiently. So went through a ton of really cool certifications and trainings, all on, if anyone listening is a techie, things called Lean Six Sigma and Agile and project management. I have all of those certifications under my belt. And kind of got married later in life, started a family a little bit later in life, and was still working, in this career at that point. And by the time my daughter turned about 2, I had a really pivotal day having her at the park one Friday afternoon where, I'd done all the work ahead of time just to, get out a little early and enjoy a Friday afternoon. And the woman pushing her child on the swings next to me just happened to ask, "What do you do for fun?" And it rocked me to my core because I didn't have an answer. And I think I was more stunned that I didn't even realize my life had gotten to a point that I couldn't answer the question, what do I, just me, Megan, do for fun? So I would love to meet that woman one day and thank her for asking me that question. That was probably about 12 years ago at this point. And it started me on, I realized, Megan, the irony is this is what you do for a living. You turn chaos into harmony. You build systems and processes to be able to figure out how do we do these things better, faster, cheaper, all of that. So I threw away my planning system I'd been using for over 20 years and kind of went from the ground up to say, how do I figure this out? How do I create and get control of my calendar again? So fast forward, several years later, I was speaking at some local women tech groups, and people were asking me, like, how do you do it? Like, how are you juggling this? Because at that time, I was also building a software company while working. So they asked if I'd show them how I kind of ran my calendar. So I had to put some thought into it. I was like, can I unpack what I'm doing and make this a framework that I could share with others? So I agreed to test it out with these 5 women. In the course of 3 months, they're like, "You've changed our life. I can't believe this. Why is this not being shared and taught?" And that's when I knew this is what I wanted to do. So in 2020, we actually ended up closing the doors of the software company I had co-founded. And it allowed me to go all in on building the Pink Bee brand. And now really this is what I do. I say full time, but I work very little. But it is the only quote job that I have, is actually running this company and bringing this program to women all over the world.
There's a couple things that I want to follow up on before we get into our sort of more detailed case study. And the first thing is, when that at that moment 12 years ago, when you realized there was something about how you were managing your time that was fundamentally not serving you at this new stage in your life. And it's not like you weren't managing it before. You were managing your time, presumably,
Yeah.
but something was in that way, an approach wasn't serving you.
Yeah.
What principle or value, like what was the main thing,
Great
the main
question.
difference, from a philosophical standpoint between the before and the after in terms of how you approach managing your time?
Yeah, a couple key things I think are at play here. One is, my life as a 28-year-old single woman, no marriage, no kids, no whatever, just me and my job, and no technology, no internet, no smartphones. Very different than a woman 40 years old, 15 years later, now juggling, a huge job with a computer essentially in our back hip pockets that we didn't have years ago. So the onslaught of information added roles and responsibilities by adding in a family and all that comes with that. The core kind of old school time management courses out there, the kind of Franklin Covey's, I'll even call out Michael Hyatt a little bit in there, work really well when you go to a job, you shut out your outside life, you focus on your job for 8 hours, your outside life does not come in, and then you leave your job and go home and your job doesn't follow you home. Well, then it's very easy to do basic time blocking and all of that. But now I found myself in information overload, increased roles and responsibilities, expectations of being available 24/7. And then the other thing I really like to address is women just carry a mental load, whether you are, elderly parents, whether maybe you have children of your own. And none of those very masculine time management, pragmatic time management systems address that and talk about how do we build uncertainty into our calendar so that when the things happen, the kid gets sick or whatever, we can pivot and accommodate those. So that was kind of where I think a big shift in just the world we lived in. But for me, the other big wake up call was realizing every single minute of my day was in service to somebody else and a role I played for someone else. I was, an employee, I was a mom, I was a wife, I was a volunteer, and nothing in my calendar represented just Megan. What does Megan like to do, and how do I fill my cup, and what do I do for fun?
Yeah, I think there's a piece here, around agency, because when I think about, one of the things that I think is powerful about your time management system is that a lot of times we look at it in terms of the outputs only.
Amen.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like the
Productivity,
schedule and the
productivity,
right,
productivity.
productivity. Yours is the first where there's as much attention placed on the inputs. And so that in order to actually create the output, which generally is going to be a schedule for the week, that we're also taking a look at the inputs that went into that and spending as much time looking at those, paying attention to those, thinking about those, and that you as the woman get to be an input. Like your needs is a fundamental piece of that input. So it is really,
100%.
really powerful.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you. And I really like to shift the definition of productivity to being getting the most important things done in a stress-free way. That's it.
Yeah.
It's not about maximizing what the outside world calls as being productive. Because the Megan who couldn't answer what do you do for fun to the rest of the world, I was one of the most productive. I produced more than anybody I knew. But was it the right stuff? Was it the most important stuff? At what cost?
Yeah. And ironically, you still do. So we're going to get into a very specific piece of your of what you do in your business and how you do it. But the thing that I find quite interesting about you is that you don't work a lot.
No.
And you have a really successful business.
Yes.
So would you be able to share a little bit like how much you actually work in the course of a week?
Yeah.
And then if you were like writing your memoirs and your high productivity, your high output business was a chapter in your memoirs, like what would you say is these were the fundamental things that these are the fundamental sort of structural pieces that allow me to have a business like this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love talking about this because normally I'm sharing time management tips. So I love being able to dig into, because I want other women to know you can have a successful business without giving your life over, right? So for me, my work schedule is typically from about 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., Monday through Friday. But there's an hour off in there every day where I'm taking care of our dogs. And on Thursdays, I only work 9 to noon because I take a cello lesson every Thursday afternoon before I go pick my daughter up from school. That's what I do for fun. So on average, over the course of a week, I work about 20-ish hours, 25 at the absolute most. I never work at night. I don't work on the weekends. During the summer months, that goes way down to maybe 12 to 15 hours over the course of a week because we're in summer mode. And then I pretty much follow my daughter's school calendar. So I don't work over the holidays. I take a week off at Christmas, all of that. So I work very little. The Pink Bee is a 7-figure annual run rate revenue producing business. Our team size is I have 3 part-time contractors, all working moms. which I love.
Yeah.
So my COO works about 15 hours a week and she homeschools two young children. I could not run this business without her. Taryn, you're amazing. My social media manager also has two young children that she homeschools. And then our customer support and amazing Aileen lives down in Buenos Aires and also has two young children and is a single mom. So we run very lean and mean, and I love it.
That is amazing. And when you, so, and what would you say are the sort of the principles or the core things that allow you to run a lean, mean, high performing business like this?
Yeah, number one is we practice what we teach, meaning we actually use the same annual, quarterly, monthly, and planning systems I teach individuals to do to manage the business. And my expectation is that they are all doing their weekly planning the way I teach it in the top program. So because we plan so effectively, outside of daily customer support. I mean, if you're running a business, there's no way you can get out of some things that need to happen real time, right? So outside of daily customer support and an occasional, tech emergency or something, any work that we're doing in a given week is tasks related to things that aren't due for several weeks out. So and that gives us the space to say, my kid is sick today, and we're not scrambling. We don't do anything last minute. And because of that, the way we plan, because we aren't doing last minute, it means we get to be very intentional and thoughtful about what it is we're going to make decisions to do in the business, to be able to say, can we maintain our current lifestyles and still do this thing? And if the answer is no, then we really need to take a step back and say, well, is this something that we think would serve the business? Well, then how can we achieve it and do it in a way? Maybe it means bringing on a new team member or something, or maybe we have to wait 6 months to do it. But we really don't fall into the shiny object syndrome. It keeps us in check from going, I just heard this thing on a podcast, we got to implement it tomorrow, right? Because that won't work with the way that we plan and manage our time. And I think it has saved, I'm a visionary. I have ideas all day long and I have a running list of them, but it saves me from myself because I can't go, I have this idea, let's do it tomorrow. And I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think temperance and moderation, like those sort of good old stoic virtues, are so key for entrepreneurs who can really, really get caught up in their ideas and what's new and what's happening. So yeah, I
And
love
it's
that
not to
approach.
say we don't sometimes do that, but when we do, it's okay. I feel this is more important than what we had planned to do. We're changing the plan, right? But it's not, now let's just add one more thing and one more thing. And now suddenly, no one's having time for themselves or anything anymore.
Curious, what do you think is the most valuable task that you do to drive growth in your business? Like when you think of all of the different tasks that you may do in your business in the course of a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, what do you consider to be the most valuable or among the most valuable?
It's funny, this ties back to one of your latest podcast episodes that I loved on your top 5. And it really had me thinking, I was like, ooh, let's put this in check here, Megan. The thing that I do that I believe is most valuable that truly no one else can do is recording podcast episodes, because those drive the core of our content, our conversations. We repurpose it on social media. It does all of that. And nobody else can do that but me. And I think, every other task that supports that, I'm always reading new books, I'm researching new things. All of that gets poured into the podcast, which then turns into what we stand for and what we teach.
Powerful. Okay. So thank you for taking us through that. You can't be what you can't see. Yeah. And so I really love when women who are running businesses really allow us to see, this is how I do it. This is what it looks like for me. This is how we decide, should we do it? Should we not? This is what my reality looks like. It feels like a very organized place. And I actually think that people feel that I actually think having a very organized operation is actually important from a selling perspective, because a prospect or somebody who's considering buying from a company can feel when there is an internal sense of order. It feels safe. Yeah, and I think that that is really key. Let's dive in because what I wanted to explore with you today is your app. And so, folks, I want to kind of take you guys a little bit behind the scenes. So, I heard Megan talking about this on a podcast, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And so, the first thing I do is, and I didn't think I needed time management help.
Well, and
So, I'm like,
the fact you did enroll, I was like, oh my, I always get a little nervous. I'm like, this is someone who's got her stuff together here. I'll be curious to see her thoughts on this.
right? So I heard the podcast. I was like, oh, that's cool. So I downloaded your app, and I was more sort of just looking at it like, this is interesting, that she's doing an app. I want to check this out. So I get the app on my phone. I do some of the stuff. I think I bought something that I upgraded to the paid version. Then I bought your program. Then I bought the planner. I'm probably going to do your Planapalooza, your 3-day planning event. So I was like, oh my gosh, this works even when I know what's going to be happening. And I'm still like, this is really, really effective. So I definitely wanted to have you on to walk us through that because I think what you're doing is very innovative.
Thank you.
So we're talking, folks, about the Pink Bee app. Megan will get into it, but just so you know, what we're doing right now is debriefing a very cool strategy that Megan put into place to really help her grow leads and sales in the business. And it's called the Pink Bee app. So I want you to take us back. It's November 2021.
Yep.
It's Black Friday.
2020.
Yeah.
No, sorry. You're right. Yeah. 2021.
Yeah.
Yes.
November 2021. It's Black Friday. Take it from there.
Yeah.
That's the birthplace of the app.
I was having a 2 a.m. hot flash session in my lovely menopausal stage of life, as we do.
Mm-hmm.
And could not sleep. And so did the worst possible thing one could do and just finally pulled out my phone because I didn't want to get out of bed. And I got sucked into an ad on Facebook for a piece of software put on by company passion.io. I'm sure many other course creators have run across this, saying that I could get my own branded app in the App Store. Now, I'm a technologist at heart. I had actually launched a software company where we had an app out there, and I swore I would never get into the app space again in terms of actually building one, because it's a nightmare and incredibly costly to maintain. But they were advertising that I could get a branded app out in the App Store without any coding, any maintenance, anything. They handled all of that. So part of me was kind of like, I don't think so. But then I was like, but what if I could? So I went down the rabbit hole and grabbed the Black Friday promo. And as I was doing it, the wheels were going of like, okay, how do I leverage this? Where does this fit in? And I felt that the biggest pain point I experience as a consumer, and that I found in managing requests coming in from customers and DMs and all of that, is, most of us have a core piece of content that we're like, hey, here's the stuff I teach for free, but here's the stuff that lives behind my paid programs, right? And so I occasionally will do some free live events and some free challenges. There are things I'm always happy to teach when I go onto people's podcasts about time management. But then we would get, messages from people. I missed the One Notebook Challenge. Where can I find it? Or I heard that great episode about this, and where can I learn about the weekly planning process? And I thought, what if I could have one central place that had my juiciest stuff that we could always say lives there and gives people a chance to learn from me and see if my teaching style fits them, but it's in one place. And I'm not going, oh, it's on this video on Facebook. This is over here on YouTube. Oh, you missed that thing, but you could buy the replays over here. So I thought, okay, what if I could package up all my great stuff, the stuff I give for free, and have it out there in a way that's really accessible for people, but keeps me front of mind. And I'm like, that's what could live in this app. And it could serve as a top of funnel strategy. So that was kind of where I came into this from, like, okay, this is how I'm going to use my app. And now I've got to figure out all the pieces around it on how to make this work.
And so the before or the problem that you were dealing with was you've got a landing page over here, another one over here. It's probably a lead page. It's probably not even on your website anymore, possibly. There's a training series that you delivered on your podcast, and they could potentially get it on the YouTube channel, but now that video is unlisted, or, all the things
Or
that
they
we as
missed
marketers
the
do
fun live event I did 3 months ago, and where could they go watch the replays? And
because they heard it on the podcast. Okay, got it. So you're taking these disparate digital locations and you want to combine them into a central point of access. Okay, got it. All right. I'm with you. Take us from there. What happened next?
so I purchased the software, and I was like, okay, I know what our fan favorites are. And in, I think, 3 days tops, couple hours a day, I had my app built out on the platform, like the content, because I didn't create anything new for it. I literally grabbed the videos that already existed somewhere else and uploaded them on to the app, just because I wanted to test this thing out.
I
So
have to pause you there for 1 second because this is interesting to me. You didn't create anything new.
no,
And I think
not
that
with the
this is
initial
where,
launch.
like, that commitment to repurposing and being resourceful, a lot of entrepreneurs would not have done that. Did you feel tempted to create something new? Did you feel tempted? I should probably re-record these before. Like, are you a person who deals with any of that?
Yes, but I knew enough to go, why I don't want to re-record all of this if I can't make this app work. Like, it wasn't, I needed to see it working. So I'm like, let's just take what I've got. And now I did record, I think, 4 like 90-second videos that just for the app, like, hi, my name is Megan, welcome to the Pink Bee app, so maybe I spent 30 minutes recording those. But I just thought, no, I mean, I'm already sending people to these things that are serving me well. I don't need to rebuild them. I know they already work. So dumped it all into the platform. And at that time, Passion was a very new platform. And so and I will say, for anybody, I don't care which app building platform you're using, we're actually going to be switching over to the Kajabi branded app platform here next month. Getting an app in the App Store is not the same thing as building a landing page. I just want to set that expectation. There are things that you yourself have to do and own. I own my App Store account. I own my Google Play account. No third-party software vendor is ever going to be able to do those things for you. So there was, thankfully, really great how-to instructions. So I kind of, dug through it. It wasn't hard. Nothing's hard. It's just step-by-step methodical instructions. And then getting through the app approval process the first time can be lengthy. It can be a couple weeks. I knew that. I'd already had an app out in the App Store again before, but working directly with their support team, from the time I said, hey, I'm ready to get this thing out here, it was about almost 3 weeks later, and the apps were live in Google Play and the App Store. And from that point forward, me maintaining it is very, very easy. I don't have to work with their teams. They're handling all of that. So the intent was, I was kind of like, okay, here's how much I'm spending on this platform per year. What if I could just break even? That was like my goal going into this. What if I could get the $1,000 I just paid back out of this app? So I decided to launch the app that has free content in it, kind of educating everybody on what's in here, but then saying with the initial launch, if you want all the juicy stuff in here, it's $1.99. And that's what we launched at one time. It's not a subscription, not anything like that. So people could go in and unlock all the content in the app forever for $1.99. And I'm looking at my notes because I kind of went in and pulled things out. So we launched it at the beginning of 2022. And the way it works in there is they would pay the $1.99 to unlock all these mini courses. But at the end of every mini course, I'm basically pitching them into my full program, right? I mean, you probably saw that and experienced it. And
Yep.
any other large purchases outside of that $1.99, they go to my actual website and purchase them there. And the reason you do that is so that way I'm not paying the either 15 or 30% Apple and Google fees. They get their 30% of my $1.99. I don't care.
Yeah.
Now, the sweet spot for me also is I happen to run a business that works well in SEO. People go to the App Store searching for productivity, right? So we played a very strong SEO campaign in the description of the app. So I have people finding my app through searching the App Store. Now, that didn't happen out of the gate. That's grown over time. But we ended up with just the $1.99 just through what I get from that, which is like $1.17 or something like that, recouping our $1,000 within the first 6 months of the app, just through people giving me $1.99 through the App Store. And that doesn't include all of the selling that's going on outside of the App Store. And so the last time I pulled out some of the data, we ended up, I know for certain, and again, tracking where you get purchases isn't always the smoothest of things, but I know that for certain we have now generated over $300,000 in program sales from people who found me first in my app, meaning they were not already on my email list. They heard about my app because we tag everything on the back end. So if someone gets on my email list for the first time through downloading the app, I know that. And so to say, literally on autopilot, we've generated well over $300,000 in program sales through people who first connected with me and downloading my app. I mean, I do nothing on this thing, right? It's amazing.
That's extraordinary. So I'd love to get a sense of how many, do you have a sense of, on an average month, how many new people download your app?
Yeah, so we get typically about 400 right now app downloads per month. And of those, 80% convert to paying to unlock the training. Now, this year in January of 2024, we changed it from $1.99 to $4.99. And my team was like, Megan, you're giving away way too much. Like, come on, we got to up the price on this thing. And I was like, all right. And our conversions have not gone down. We've maintained that 80%. So, because I know if someone's downloaded it, and then I know if then they pay the now at $4.99. So 80% of people who download the app now still go in and pay the $4.99 to unlock.
I was curious about your decision to not have it be a recurring charge. So with a lot of apps, almost every other app I use, actually, there's a recurring charge. It's $4.99 a month. And I was curious about your decision to have it be a one-time charge. Can you walk us through that? What was your philosophy around that?
My signature program is also just a one-time thing. You buy it, you own it. This is content you've owned. Because the app was not going to be a place where I was refreshing content and providing new stuff, do not feel like it made sense to make this a subscription, right? Why should you keep repaying for the content that you've purchased? So for us, it just stood very much in alignment with how my core program works as well. I was like, if I am going to be making this a subscription, it's almost like a membership, then that means there needs to be new stuff out there to make them feel the need to keep paying it. So I just said, basically it's content that they used to be able to find in various places out there. I think it's a win that I'm even, I'm getting paid for it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I also think that it's a part of what makes your business model and your schedule work so beautifully. So continuity, any kind of continuity means continuity. Yep. Whether it's like continuity in high ticket offers, whether it's continuity in an app or a membership. But what you have are truly, truly scalable digital offers. There is, of course, like coaching components around them. But the beauty of that is it allows you as a business owner to start really directing efforts towards volume.
Yeah.
Which is powerful.
We do freshen the content. It's not like it's the same content that was out there 3 years ago. Like one of the ways that I absolutely love how we use it is, and we may be changing this soon. So if you want to see this training, go get the app. I do a thing once a year called the One Notebook Challenge.
So good. Love it.
It cracks me up because it was like, I did this a couple years ago being like, no one's going to like this stuff. It is still to this day. I have people going, I found you through the One Notebook Challenge. I'm like, all right, I teach people how to stay organized using just one notebook. So people hear about it and they're like, when are you doing the next one? So we made this decision this year after I ran the One Notebook Challenge, which was a free event. We packaged up the replays. I didn't re-record them. We just literally took the replays that I did live and put them in the app. So now if someone's like, I missed the one notebook challenge. I'm like, just go, hey, it's in the Pink Bee app, go grab it. Well, now they're paying $4.99 to get the one notebook challenge. So
Yeah.
we've done that with a number of events that people love. That's just good evergreen content that just then feeds them right into my program. And it's a great thing when someone goes, where can I learn about the one notebook system? I'm like, just go grab it in the app. It's packaged right up there for you. And saying that to someone is so much easier for them to go execute on than, well, if you go into my Facebook group, go tap on the guides section, right? I mean, like the way that we used to try and go drive people to old content. So that's been huge. And another real great shift is typically if I'm, on someone's podcast training about time management, they'll always ask at the end, oh, where's a good place for people to find you? I think people are getting fatigued from, I have this great PDF, go to this URL and download it. So I typically say, you know what? If you want to see what I was just talking about here today, go grab my app in the App Store. It's jam-packed with some great content. And hey, this is a really nice way for you to see if the way I teach is a good fit. And I can always tell when a podcast episode that I was, on someone else's show landed that hit a big group because we see a huge uptick in app downloads within
Yeah.
that 48-hour window.
Yeah. I mean, I suspect for folks listening to this, just the curiosity, the desire, the curiosity to see how it works, plus the desire for the tools themselves
Yeah.
would almost certainly prompt them to go to the app. And guys, it really is worth it. It's worth the $4.99 upgrade. You know what I mean?
Especially
but
where your marketing lens is you're going through
Exactly.
if you're a business owner, right? And be like, all right, what's she doing here? How do I
Exactly.
work this?
Sure.
Yeah.
But when I think about businesses, I think about like whether it's a manufacturer, whether you're a manufacturer, whether you're a maker of things or a coach or a consultant, like your revenue increases as throughput increases. And throughput is just how easily can a customer move through your business? And I think what this really does is create it really improves throughput. Like it makes it very easy and centralized for somebody to go from a lead who just has a little bit of awareness of you through that process to become a customer. It's very, very smooth. So this is interesting. So we know that about 300K in program sales directly from the app. I was curious about a couple of things. Do you have a sense of what the conversion rate is between somebody who becomes a subscriber, like who becomes a paid subscriber to the app, and then goes and actually buys a program? Like,
Yeah, our last check on this, and I think it's higher than this, but I wanted to give a number I know is 100% certain, is we have just under, I'll just round it up to 8%. The last check was 7.85, I think. So 8% of people who first download the app. I'm not talking about people who've already been on my list forever. Like they first come into me through the app, almost 8% of them turn into a $600 sale after going through the app.
that's amazing. That's a really great conversion rate.
Because I'm not doing anything. This is none of my life. Like for some people are like, oh, but I convert at 15. I'm like, I'm doing nothing. This is happening while I'm sleeping. So I'll take that all day long.
Yeah, 100%. And then my other question was about, does this help you build your email list? Because this is another thing that I think is so important for entrepreneurs.
100%. And in a couple different ways. So again, one, I can just mention to people, hey, go download the app. When they do that, they are on my email list because of the way, the email gets triggered. I've got it all set up in Zapier that now the email, triggers and is over there. The other thing that's been really great is using this for ads. So I have run ads directly to download the Pink Bee app. And our sweet spot for this has actually been on Pinterest, of all places, of running. Yeah, they perform best on Pinterest, better than they do in Meta and Google. And so the latest round of ads that we were running on Pinterest, we were getting subscribers, meaning people who actually pay the $4.99. We were getting them at $1.07 per lead. So I'm actually making almost $4 as this person's coming into my email list, whether they choose to then purchase anything on the back end. So this isn't even an SLO. This is a full on like profitable funnel with ads. I mean, $4 a pop, but still these are now highly qualified new leads joining my email list, and I'm getting paid for them to join my email list.
Well, and when you have that handle on the numbers and when you know that, roughly 8% of those, and of course it's going to vary, but
Yeah.
if you can sort of, pencil out roughly 8% of these are going to turn into a $600 scale, I think that's the kind of predictability and stability
Yeah.
that comes before the ability to scale. And we don't talk about that enough, that you don't just go from experimentation to scale. You have to start to be able to create a level of stability, which it looks like this has really done, from a customer
It
acquisition
has.
perspective. Yeah.
I mean, those
Yeah.
numbers of, 300 to 400 app users per month are pretty much spot on month over month. I mean, we've never seen a month where it plummets down. We
Yeah.
will see months where it spikes way up because of some, a piece of publicity that was done that highlighted the app that way. And even just in whether, it started as $1.99 and now it's $4.99, we're now at over $36,000 in revenue over the course of the app, just from the $1.99 or $4.99. I mean, if you're talking to high level 6 and 7 figure business owners, they're like, what's the big deal over $35,000 in revenue? Well, I earned $35,000 to get qualified leads. It's not about the revenue from the app. It's what the app is doing after they're in our world. And another, key benefit for this that is a money saver. I don't currently use any texting platforms for the business. I just haven't gone there yet, but I can send push notifications through my app. So, and I'm very particular. We don't do it often because I don't want it to be noisy. And it goes against what I teach about keeping notifications off on your phone and distractions and all of that. But there's something powerful about every time someone picks up their phone and, opens it up, on their home screen might be my big fat pink bee sitting right there. Every time they're looking at their screen. It keeps me front of mind, and it's a different way to communicate with people as well.
So cool. So I would love to ask you about how you drive traffic and your CTAs. So I think I'm going to start first with CTAs. So when you think about a lot of the marketing that you do now, whether you're doing an Instagram live or it might be your podcast or you're guesting on a podcast. So I know guesting on a podcast, just go check out the app.
Yeah.
Do you send people, so now is that your main CTA, outside of a paid offer or something? Like how do you drive, curious about driving traffic and CTAs with respect to the app?
Yeah. So every piece of content we put out there, we always define what is the CTA for this. And the app is not always the right CTA for things that I'm doing. So, we did a big push for early bird tickets for my live planning event. Well, for that entire month, the CTA was go join the planning event, right? We're not pushing the app. But we do have the app mentioned at some point in any nurture sequence to someone when they come into our world. So even if I have given them the call to action to, hey, go sign up for Planapalooza, we know at some point over the next week or two after they've done that, if they're brand new to us and they don't currently have the app, they're going to get some content from us driving them to go download the app. So if it's not the actual CTA for what I'm talking about, it is built in to various email nurtures, and then we have it on rotation for it being brought up weekly on our newsletter where it makes sense as well. So even for people that find me not through the app and end up joining my program, they all end up grabbing the app anyway.
Yeah. So we talked about SEO as a major traffic driver to the app. We talked about excellent ad campaigns that are working effectively through Pinterest. And ironically, Pinterest is basically a big SEO machine itself, So that's neat how those ads are working quite effectively there. What would be, the other sort of top 2 drivers of traffic that you have experienced that work really well for the app?
And this has just now happened, I'd say over the last 6 to 8 months, is word of mouth, which is really cool for us to hear. Because oftentimes for people that do join my program, I just don't do much live, but once a month I do hold a live coaching call that any of the students can come in. And there has not been a call where someone has not brought up the app saying, my friend told me about you and told me I needed to go download your app. So when we think about affiliates generate over a third of the revenue for our business right now through various forms. And so when you think about, some of the programs I affiliate for, it's really tricky for me. Oh, well, hang on, let me go figure out how to get you the link or the whatever, right? It's hard for people to refer other businesses sometimes. Like, what was that name? Who should I follow? Whereas if a woman has had great success in the program and they're like, I've got to tell my friends about this, they'll say, you got to go get her app. Go check out Meg. Go download the Pink Bee app and check out Megan. It's such an easy conversational way for people to share a positive experience with the program.
Yeah, really cool. Okay, amazing. So my next question is, you are moving from passion.io to Kajabi.
Yeah.
Could you share a little bit about why you're doing that and what you hope to accomplish?
Yeah. So I love both platforms. So this is not I don't care for either of the platforms. Passion's been great. They are farther along, hands down, in the app development. Kajabi a year ago just announced that they were rolling out branded apps. So of course because I already, my entire business runs on the Kajabi platform. So literally everything, the courses, my email, the website, the community, all of it, all of our checkout, everything. So instantly I'm like, oh, anytime I can streamline and have less systems, I'm here for it. So I checked it out a year ago and I was like, ooh, I can't make the switch. Like, it's brand new. Like I've at least got to maintain,
Work some bugs out first. Yeah.
I've got to maintain the same, I can't lose functionality by switching. So I've been keeping a close eye on as they've developed the branded app. And so a couple months ago, they finally put a new release out where I was like, oh, I think it's time. So we've built it out. It's ready to go, but there's two key pieces that were just not there yet. So I've actually been fortunate enough to work with the product owner at Kajabi on their branded app because they would very much like me to move, move my app over as well. So given their current development schedule, it looks like we'll be able to make that switch here in the coming month, probably early to mid-October. And the main reason for me for wanting to make the switch is, number one, it's going to be one less platform my team and I need to log into and support and manage. But second, for my actual students, for the people that purchase programs outside of the app, it's going to be a exceptional upgrade for them. Because right now, Kajabi itself has its own app. So you could log into the Kajabi app and see any courses you've bought from any vendor there. And so my students will log into the Kajabi app to be able to, let me go watch that training on prioritization Megan did. But then if they want to go see something in the Pink Bee app, it's confusion for them sometimes of like, I'm in the Pink Bee app, I'm not seeing the program.
Yeah.
What this is going to allow now is any customer of mine just has to download the Pink Bee app. And if they choose to purchase the top program, it will just show up inside of the Pink Bee app moving forward instead of them having to go to the Kajabi app, along with the community access, everything. So if someone finds me first through the app, they'll when we move to Kajabi, they won't know it, that it's powered by Kajabi on the back end. And then if they choose to purchase the top program, well, it's just going to show right up for them there in that app, and they're not going somewhere else. So it's going to be a really seamless experience for both new leads and existing customers as well. And so that was really the push for me to want to be able to move over to the app store there.
My penultimate question for you is, if you were to kind of take a step back, I think, for myself, observing how you talk about your business and how you make decisions and how you think about, growing your business or how you think about the customer journey, is that there's a way that you look at things, which seems to be like a tendency towards streamlining and simplification.
Yes.
And which is actually, and of course it makes sense. I suspect a big part of that is your superpower. I mean, it's why you teach the things that you teach.
Yeah.
However, you are an entrepreneur with a family and a marriage and hobbies living in our digital world where information overload is nonstop.
Yeah.
I'm curious about is there a practice or is there like a mantra or something that allows you to get enough space, to get enough separateness, to be able to kind of look at the 20,000 foot view with this lens of streamlining and simplification. Like, how do you do that? Is there a practice that you use that just continuously allows you to just look for ways to simplify and streamline?
Yeah.
I'm curious how that shows up for you or what you do there.
So I think there's two things at play. Number one is I have a clear set, just personal boundary, and I think it comes with age, of I don't want to work more hours than I'm working. It's not because I don't love what I'm doing, but I've juggled the 50, 60, 70-hour work week and family. And I know for me personally, it is a recipe for disaster. It's just horrible. So anytime I'm thinking about the business and approaching, great ideas that I have, it's always with this, I kind of have this personal goal to prove everybody wrong who told me that I can't build a $10 million business working 4 hours a day with a team of 3. I'm like, you so sure about that? Because you told me I couldn't. You told me I couldn't get to 7 figures. Yet here we are. So I don't know if it's that. I grew up in a very male IT world because I was in aviation for the last 10 years. So there's a little bit of that. Oh yeah, watch me.
Listen, the whole watch me, or the whole it's like another dimension of revenge.
Yeah, a little bit.
Really, I remember talking to a top negotiator on the podcast once, and she said that is actually one of the most powerful forces in business.
Yeah. And so, I think I've got and plus I was bullied in school. I was such a nerd and in the marching band and all of that. So it feels a little bit like the Revenge of the Nerds a little bit.
100%.
But how this plays out is I am a firm believer in one of the most productive things that you can do for yourself is what I call passive productivity. Meaning, because I have so much time in my day where I am not in output mode, right? If I'm only working 4.5 hours a day, but in the back of my mind, like our brain is magical, right? If there's a problem that you're trying to solve and you can't solve it, your brain knows that you want to solve it. And this is why sometimes when you're like out for a walk, all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I got it, right? Out of nowhere, you come up with the idea or the thing, or you can fix the problem. I have so much space away from sitting at my desk and working on my business, large chunks of it, that I truly believe that my superpower of how do I make my decisions, how do I get these ideas to streamline, how do I come up with a plan to simplify, is because I'm not working. And that's when all of those things start churning. And if I start getting excited about something, the best thing I can do for myself is go, I'm not going to think about it right now, but I'm going to tell my brain to get to work. And the next morning I'll be out for a run and all of a sudden I'm like, there it is, like out of nowhere, it just comes. And I think people get caught up in, I push through it. I'm going to hustle. I'm going to work harder. I'll figure it out. I'll go. And when you're in constant output mode, your brain is not able to receive information. It's not able to problem solve if all you're doing is going downstream. And so the time that I spend not working, I walk my dogs a lot, even just I spend 2 hours every day in the car with school drop off and pick up. My daughter's school's forever away. I used to spend all that time with podcasts and ebooks and all of that. I don't do that anymore. I might do one round trip listening to something and the other is just me and music. And then the things come. So, and I'm reading an interesting book right now called The Focus Fix. And it's all this science behind how daydreaming improves productivity and creativity. And it's really interesting. And I'm like, I feel like, I'm kind of like, oh, well, that explains a lot. And so I have these really hard boundaries with my time. And then I honor them. When I'm not working, I'm not working. But my brain is doing it for me, whether I realize it or not. And so it has the space to get creative and problem solve and come up with ideas.
Oh, that is just magical. Okay. I so appreciate you for coming on and really kind of walking us through this debrief, but also I think for many entrepreneurs, I think what you're modeling here is a way. It's not just like the tools that you use, but the way that you've integrated them and how it becomes like a way of being. So it's very, very cool. I know it'll really speak to a lot of listeners. I suspect I know the answer to this, but where should people go, Megan?
Well, obviously, you ought to go download the Pink Bee app. It's just one word, the Pink Bee. But also, I do a lot of little small tidbits of training real time that is fresh and new out on Instagram. You can come follow me at Megan Sumrell over there on the gram as well. And hey, if you're a podcast fan, I also have a podcast, which Eleanor is going to be on soon. I'm really excited about that, called Work-Life Harmony. So again, it's just all practical. I am not the mindset side of things as much as I was a math major, just very pragmatic steps to help us get control of our calendar.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.